Hello, this is Tammy Pie, and this is going to be a VR to Kelly Bear. Lessons from Arcana 14, Temperance. I'm going to show you the cards I'm going to refer to from the decks, and that way I can quickly get the identification of the decks out of the way. And then we'll go into what I want to talk about regarding the decks. Okay, so this is the Temperance card from Tarot of the Spirit by Pamela and Joyce Eakins. This is the Middle Path, or the Temperance card from the Buddha Tarot by Robert M. Place. This is the Art or Temperance card from Tabula Mundi by M.M. Meleen. This is the Temperance card from Tarot of the Crone by Lorenzi-Prince. This is Temperance or Art from the Urban Tarot by Robin Scott. This is the Temperance card from Desert Illuminations by Lindsay D. Williams. The Temperance card from the Alchemical Tarot, the 5th edition by Robert M. Place. The Temperance card from Tarot Avatara by Gabi Angus-West. And finally, the Temperance card or Art card by from the Thoth Tarot by Aleister Crowley and painted by Lady Frieda Harris. Okay, so the main subject of Kelly's video, I think, was resilience, temperance as resilience. She touched on a number of other subjects, but I want to come at this. I'm doing the deck and walk, so we're going to talk a little bit about zodiacal references, a tiny bit about Kabbalah, and the middle path. And let's start with the Buddha Tarot, because the Buddha Tarot very clearly shows Siddhartha, and this is after he had been fasting to become more pure, but he is becoming unhealthy, he's dying, and that doesn't serve any purpose. He would not become Buddha if he died. So this is a woman bringing him a bowl of rice and milk, rice mixed with milk, which is going to be life-saving and going to give him health and also bring him closer to the divine. What he ends up doing is dividing this bowl into, I think, 49 different portions, which keeps him alive during a process that he goes through over 49 days. And when he comes out of it, he is essentially changed. Okay, the next one I want to go through a little bit is from Robin Scott's Urban Tarot, which is a favorite deck of mine. And this is interesting because it shows the mixing of red and white, blood and milk, or the pure with the fire, water and fire. Here is Pamela Coleman Smith's angel taking the one cup and pouring into the other cup. It's the Urban Tarot, so the mirror she's holding up is toward New York City, and the graffiti culture. Okay, so it's kind of an interesting way to look at art and how art changes us when we see it. I want to read a little bit of what Robin Scott wrote. The Thoth deck calls this trump art, and so do I. It speaks of taking opposing pieces and finding a way to harmonize them, mix them, combine them into a new and unique whole. Solve et coagula, as the old alchemists say, dissolve and combine. I see what I've done with this deck as a kind of creative alchemy. I've taken elements from what has come before, the old and the new, ancient symbols and modern architecture, and sought to combine them in ways to bring these elements greater power through juxtaposition. Art, as any artist can tell you, never grows in a vacuum. Creating new work is as much as a process of learning to see, absorb, and process what others have done as it is about creating something new from whole cloth. So the first card that I thought of when I was watching Kelly go through her video was the Tarot of the Crone card. And what's beautiful about this, the gold fire flames, she's not really touching them, but you can see she's kind of absorbing the power of fire and also the power of ice or crystals, not touching but absorbing it. And then with one foot she's walking along this green path, and this green path is life-giving. Green is life to her. So she also has a little thin line of green coming around the whole figure. And if you notice, the stars on this side are the color of the crystal, and the stars on this side are the color of the flame. So she's taking the power from both these sources and walking on one toe, the very center of it, creating a whole new way to walk, right? So I'm going to read to you from Ellen Lorenzi-Prince's book. I walk in beauty, I walk with power. I build my walk with every step I take, so it's a creative process. The Nightcloak figure walks a slim green path shining. She builds the power to create that living path within herself through drawing in and combining opposing powers. She does not burn in the fire, nor does the ice cut her. Neither does she put out the fire nor melt the ice. Her intent is not to diminish or submit to these powers, but to use them both consciously and creatively. Temperance is a dynamic process, a moving magic, and it makes life full of meaning. So in that same vein, when I was doing my reading, when I was preparing for this video, I lit incense. I listened to some chanting music that I listen to on YouTube when I'm trying to concentrate. I lit incense. I moved around, moved my body, stretched out. I created a situation where my mind would be open so that I could accept some knowledge and then put it back out. I want to quickly talk about this Temperance card in Desert Illuminations. I grew up in New Mexico, so this deck is particularly special to me, that I recognize a lot of the stuff. And this is Our Lady of Guadalupe. In Santa Fe, there is a church for Our Lady of Guadalupe where they have big rose gardens. And she's a really good choice for Temperance because she tends to preach patience and calm and protection. And in fact, the roses are symbolic of health. She appeared to a man in Mexico and told him to go pick roses on a mountain where there were not roses. And he found them, picked the roses, and brought them back. And I think his brother or his dad was sick, and it actually made them well. So temperance, along the lines of health, and Our Lady of Guadalupe. So another thing is, when I listened to Kelly Bear's video, I was very excited about it. I wanted to get on it right away. I wanted to discuss temperance. I think temperance is a really interesting card. It's it applies in so many ways in life. So this is Tarot Avatara, and the Avatara is Frieda Kahlo, and this is Diego Rivera. Thank you, everyone who reminded me of that. And here we have the arrow for Sagittarius, because the sign is Sagittarius that is associated with temperance. We have water and fire, but also we have this couple, this very dynamic, very artistic couple. Both of these people were artists, and they were both kind of very dynamic personalities, but somehow they managed to temper their personal lives and their artistic a lifetime of artistic work with their relationship with each other. Diego was he was known as a womanizer, and she was very kind of jealous at first, but then she knew she had to put up with it. It is interesting to me because I have been in a long-term relationship for over 25 years. The way that couples will give a little, stretch a little, allow a little, and then push back because they need to keep their own identity. And this is also a signature of temperance. Okay, Robert M. Place again. This is the temperance card from the Alchemical Tarot, which the alchemical process it discusses is distillation. That's the glyph for it right there. And again, we have the red and the white. And this is, I think this is actually supposed to be Mary. But she is putting water in one thing, adding heat to it, and we get steam. And then the water in the other urn is going to be purified, distilled. So to temperance, there is an element of health. People talk about it as a health card, but also purity. So the temperance card from Tarot of the Spirit, this Pamela Eakins really went deep with this card. Okay, so the pathway for the temperance card on the Tree of Life. Let's see if I can quickly dig up I know where there's one. A Tree of Life. Okay, so the pathway is going to be from Tiphareth to Yesod. Okay, there it is, 14. And Tiphareth is beauty, or the sun. And Yesod is coming down towards earth. It's the moon. Okay? This is it's an important pathway that is bringing beauty and art and knowledge down to the earth so that we can use it. It's a transference. Okay, I'm going to read a little from the Tarot of the Spirit guidebook. The challenge of key 14 is to be centered and balanced like a gyroscope, continually righting itself in the midst of moving forces. The universe will always revolve and evolve. The only true stability results from continual adjustment and movement with the flow. So we also have here, again, the arrow. This is salt and sulfur, which is an alchemical balance. Here's the sun and the moon, okay? The gyroscope, and pointing toward a target. We're always trying to look for the important knowledge, all right? The great work at this point involves understanding the connection between the sun and the moon. This understanding requires purification of the body, as symbolized for the glyph of the salt at the back end of the arrow, right here. And the ignition of cosmic force, represented by the glyph for sulfur at the arrow's point, right here. Okay? This arrow of divine love, just as Cupid's arrow represents eros or human love, the force that prepares the arrow is human desire to understand. So when we want to understand, we have to take the time, like I did, to read some stuff and to become familiar with symbology and language and why. And then we connect it in our own minds to the things that happen in our own life. For instance, lighting incense and a candle and having good smell and having nice music, so that I can open my mind and remain calm and sit and read, because sometimes it's a challenge to sit and read these complex philosophical meanings, right? So that's Pamela Eakins. Really interesting book. Okay? Okay, let's move on to Thoth. And here is Lady Frieda Harris's artwork. So here we have the red and the white. They're mixing water and fire in this pot here. This is actually a dual character. It's both man and woman. Here's the green for the green lion, which is alchemy. So this is art. It's also linked to the alchemical wedding of the lover's card. So here you see the red lion and the white eagle, which are switched in the Temperance card, and you see the emperor and empress getting married, and the arrow. So it's a blend and a look back at the lovers, right? Where is, do we have, yeah, here we go. There's the arrow pointing up. Okay. All right, let's go to Tabula Mundi. Tabula Mundi is a new deck to me, but it's Thoth based, so it's pretty easy for me to reference. Sagittarius is not a zodiac sign that I'm super familiar with, but I do know that they are kind of thought of as the searcher of the zodiac signs. They are the hunter, the one who is expanding, and they tend to be very, well, it's an earth sign, so they're stable and sometimes a bit what do you call it when you're immobile. So here we have the arrow being shot into the sun, And here's water and fire. And what do we have when we have water and the sun? We have a rainbow. And the rainbow is in the shape of a bow. So that's where the Sagittarius, who's the hunter, comes in. This is a personification of the green lion, which mixes. And Sagittarius is end of November to end of December, I believe. Here are the minor arcana cards that are associated with Sagittarius. This is the 8 of Wands, or swiftness. This is the 9 of Wands. Again, it's an earth card, right? I'm sorry, fire card. I get my things mixed up, and now I don't want to edit or any of that. Okay, so fire card. The arrows are shooting toward the sun. And here is 10 of Wands, or oppression, which is, this is Sagittarius under the influence of Saturn. So Saturn will press down on the fiery energy and oppress it. And here is our Decan card, which carries elements of all those minor arcana cards: the arrow, the sandals of Mercury, the caduceus for health, the rainbow, the Orphic opening. Because once you learn something, you are then forever changed by it. So I'm going to read just a little bit from Emma Meleen's book, Liber Mundi, which is a great book, but it's pretty complicated. The rainbow is a symbol of this card, as the arrow of Sagittarius pierces the rainbow. The paths on the tree of life that spell QSHTH, meaning bow or rainbow. Below is an alchemical vessel representing Yesod, in which fire and water combine. Above, they show the paths leading to and from Temperance. Around their conjunction is a crown of light. The arrow is the force through the green fuse that drives my red blood. That's a quote from Dylan Thomas. And the blue and red serpents. She wears the color of Chokmah and Binah for fire and water, and the twin channels of the Kundalini. The card is bright, but the path leading between sun and moon would be brightest of all. So if you think about it, coming from the moon in the dark toward the sun would be exceedingly bright, painful. In the crucible, in the interior, it might be quite dark. The sign of Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and in Sagittarius, the dragon's tail is exalted. The dragon's tail is the south node of the moon. These two nodes, called the dragon's head and the dragon's tail, are not planets, but intersecting points of two orbits that of ecliptic, or an apparent path from the sun and the earth, the orbit of the moon around the earth. The Book of Thoth calls the passage on this card the arrow, and says of it, "Now then, behold how the head of the dragon is but the tail of Aether." And this is also showing an eclipse, because if you were coming from the moon toward the sun would be exceedingly bright from the front, but from Earth it would be an eclipse. So the main points that I found while looking at Temperance, and of course, as soon as you're looking at something in the cards and reading about it and thinking about it, then it appears everywhere in your life, right? So when cooking, we are careful not to add too much salt, because once you put too much salt in, it's really hard to reverse that, right? So we temper our creation. We add only a little bit of white paint till we get exactly the right color of pink, if you're adding it to red, say. We also temper ourselves. We have to be patient, because we all have lives, we all have things to do, we all have personal relationships that we have to attend to. So even though you might want to say run out and take a walk in the park, for instance, but there is laundry that needs to be done because tomorrow there might be something that needs to be worn by someone in your family. So you have to stop yourself and say, well, do I have time for this? Do I have time for that? And you have to create balance in your life. This, over time, changes people, and you become something different, someone different, because you have learned the art of patience, because you've learned to allow for other people and other things. You're not a baby anymore. You're not a toddler. You have learned to walk on your flat feet a certain way in order to get to a certain place. You learn to manage your time, manage your money, manage your food, manage your health in order to get some longevity. And all this is in the art card, or the Temperance card, which refers back to Sagittarius and the path between the sun and the moon. Thanks for coming.